Today, I'm reviewing Baseline, a tool to help you create a brand kit. A brand kit is a place where not only your logo lives, but your typography, how you want your business to be presented online. It's even common to include things like your brand voice, the types of language you want used to represent your business, and even your core values are often included inside of brand kits. So, Baseline, this is currently available for a lifetime deal. It's supposed to make brand kits super easy. Now, trust me, brand kits can be expensive. If you go to a designer or a branding company, they might charge you 15, 20, $30,000 just to help develop your branding. So if you're a new business, is this going to save you a ton of cash? And if you're an established business, are you going to be sacrificing anything by not just going to one of the big branding companies? I'm going to try to answer that question in this video. There's a lot about Baseline I really like, a few things that I think need a little bit of improvement. So let's get right into it. Now, before we jump into the Baseline interface, you should know that this video is sponsored by AppSumo. If you want to grab Baseline, it's currently available as a lifetime deal on AppSumo, but only for the next 7 days. It's not going to go beyond the 7 days. Often AppSumo deals run like 30 or 60 days. This is a short one, so grab it if you make it through the end of the video and you think it's worth your while. I'll have a link in the description, and if you click on that, it helps support the channel. All right, let's go. Okay, so here is Baseline. And as you can see, I've already got a few brands entered into my account. Depending on the plan you buy from AppSumo, you'll have a certain number of brands that are available. I do think this is a great opportunity for service providers, web developers, even if you provide, let's say, a monthly hosting or support plans. This could be a really great opportunity. We'll dig more into the specific plans later on in the video to figure out which one is the best value. But essentially, I've got two brands here right now. Let's go ahead and add in a third. So I'll just click right up here where it says new brand, and then it wants to know the name of my brand. So, they're kind of being cute here saying name your child, crossing that out and adding in brand. It's not anything like that could be confusing to people. It's not a child brand. They're just saying that, you love your brand. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and enter in that LTD life and say that's my brand name. And now the next thing they ask is, do you have a logo? Now, this is really important because if you don't have a logo, you can still use Baseline. And actually, it does a halfway decent job. It's not going to be like a AI designed logo or, really anything beyond that, but I'll just hit no for now. And then it's going to create a logo for me. We can kind of see this process. After we're done with this, I'll go back and upload my real logo so you can see what that looks like as well. So creating a logo through Baseline, like I mentioned, not the most sophisticated process, but at the end, you'll have something that isn't awful. So first thing you do is choose your color scheme, which is kind of a weird step. Most of the time when you work with designers, colors come at the very, very end. But let's go ahead and pick out a color scheme. Now, my one criticism of this right here is that all of the color schemes they give you by default tend to be extremely vibrant, lots of different selections, whereas most brands kind of have one really bright color and then everything else is a little bit more subdued. Now, don't worry, you can edit this after the fact. So if you see one that you really like a specific brand color, you can go ahead and choose that and then just edit out or replace some of the other colors that might be too vibrant for your taste. All right, just kind of scrolling through here. I'm going to go with this one right here. Lots of different green tones in this, so not a huge kind of rainbow selection. I'm going to go with that and hit select. Now it's going to create the logo for me. And essentially, all it's going to do is write my brand name in a bunch of different fonts. And I can customize this, tweak this from here. So we've got kind of, I don't know, that kind of looks like a college sports team to me. We can scroll through. There's lots of different options. Let's see if we can find one that looks, pretty passable. This one kind of looks like a heavy metal band. Honestly, this looks like a modern heavy metal band. But these are just typefaces, right? Nothing particularly creative yet. They're just showing me what my logo looks like in a bunch of different typefaces. All right, I like this one right here called Special Elite. So I'm gonna go ahead and tweak this. And from here, I can change the color. I definitely want it to be the dark color. And then for the casing, it has it set to lowercase right now. I could do uppercase, that looks pretty good, or none, which will leave it as I typed it in the original prompt. Now we do have a letter spacing over here where I can actually kind of tweak this and make it a little bit tighter if I want. This is often called kerning for designers. Now, the one thing you don't have control over is the kerning or the spacing between individual letters. That is something that a graphic designer will study for a very long time to understand where letters should connect and what's going to be easiest to read and give your brand a unique feel. So this is not going to replace a full-on graphic designer, but to just get started, if you've got an idea for a company, no reason to go spend a bunch of money getting a logo created. First, validate, get your business making some cash, and then you can invest in a graphic designer. Okay, so this is essentially it, right? I'm gonna go ahead and choose this, and then it's gonna take me to the next screen where I can choose my color palette. This is what I mentioned before. I can refine the baseline selection that they provided me. So I could add in additional colors here. I could modify the colors that are here. So if I don't like this one, I could even just delete it. And then maybe this support color 3, I wanna make that maybe more like a call to action color. So I'll make it a red color. And then if I wanted, I could add a description here, like I'll say use for call to actions buttons. There we go. So that's pretty good. And here I'll add a description, say main brand color. All right, we're looking pretty good. I'm gonna say these are my brand colors. And then the next step is to add in any gradients. I really like this part of the app. Gradients is something that non-designers often struggle with, and they honestly do a pretty good job of giving you some selections here. Now, the options where I've added my own brand color in maybe don't look quite as good, but I like some of these kind of metallic looks. Most of them are pretty tastefully done. You can see they can even take the color that I added in and show me what a nice gradient might look like using that color. Now, I'm gonna reserve this for buttons, so I don't want it in any of my gradients. I maybe select one or two of these. If I don't like any of them, I can skip this section entirely. All right, I like having a very slight gradient for dark and then a brand color gradient here. Let's go ahead and hit confirm and we'll move to the next section, which is our brand fonts. Now, in my opinion, the font handling is done very nicely. I can choose from any Google font without having to do any work at all. If I have a custom font that I've purchased or maybe hired a designer to create, I can upload that here. Or if I have an Adobe Typekit account, I can go ahead and link to my Typekit URL right here. All right, I've got my fonts selected here. Now, I did try uploading a custom font and that worked beautifully as well. I'll show you a different brand that I did the upload on a little bit later on. But you can see here that I've got a heading font, a subheading font, and then my body font. So essentially, I've got 3 different options here. Now, I recommend sticking to no more than 2 fonts. Otherwise, it tends to get a little bit overwhelming. But I don't think it's too bad to have a special font for your headlines and then a little bit more readable for subheadlines and your body copy. You do have choices in terms of font weight here. So if you want to make your subheadlines really bold, you definitely could do that. If you wanted to make it more light, you can choose that as well. Plus, there's the option to make everything uppercase. So for this main headline here, we can see what it looks like if I have that always be uppercase. Remember, we're setting up the guidelines for how all of our content should be represented online or even in person. If you're doing print material, you can use a brand kit for that as well. In the future, you might be hiring a new graphic designer, and rather than having them go through your old content and try to piece together how you want your brand represented, you can just send them to your brand kit and they'll understand everything. It's basically like a playbook. Here are the rules for designing for this brand. Really a powerful tool. In the next step, we're going to be choosing our typography scaling. This is basically how big or small you want your print to be. Now, essentially, this is all done for us based on mathematics. So we choose our base size right here and then a scale ratio, and you can see what the H1, H2, H3, so on and so forth, how big the copy will be. If you want very large type, go ahead and bump this up to like 18 or even 20. If you want a lot smaller type, be careful because this becomes a usability issue where people literally won't be able to read things, but you could go down to like a 14 and still be somewhat passable, although you might be violating some accessibility guidelines. Yeah, you can see here at 14, the text for your body copy gets to be quite small. But there's lots of different scaling ratios here. So if you don't want things to get too large too quickly, like going from 16 all the way up to 48, you could choose a smaller interval. So rather than a major third, maybe I'll choose a major second. And now I still have my 16-point body text, but my H1 is a lot smaller. All right, this is looking pretty good. I'm going to choose my type scale is ready. And essentially at this point, I've got my first draft of my brand kit. So you can see the main logo right here. And as I scroll through, I can see the different variations of the logo. This becomes more important when you have a custom designed logo from a real graphic designer. Again, we'll look at that option in a moment, but we can see what the brand looks like on a white background, on a black background. There's a section here called the safe zone, basically specifying how close other items can be to the logo. And there's even a prohibited use of the logo, basically saying, hey, don't do this to our logo. A lot of times, let's say you get an affiliate or something, they're going to be representing your brand or advertising your products and services, and they might do things in their graphic design to screw around with your brand in order to, fit their YouTube thumbnails or their Instagram posts. Well, you can say explicitly, do not do this. And then when they do it, you can say, look, you broke the rules, either change or you're not going to be allowed to represent our brand any longer. Of course, the color section is here as well as the gradient section. So you can see how it's very easy for people to go in here, grab the CSS, and then they can use these exact gradients, whether they're working internally on your company or working as an ambassador. We've got our font section down here to see what the different fonts look like, the typographic scale that we just set up in the last step. And that's it for now, but there's even more that we can add to this brand kit. So let's go ahead and create another brand. I'm gonna fly through most of this. I just wanna show you the upload process for adding your own custom logo in, as well as adding in a custom font. All right, so one more time, we're gonna hit new brand here. I'm gonna go ahead and enter in profitable tools. That's my brand name. And this time I'm gonna upload my own logo. There's one really cool thing it does as you upload a logo that I wanna show you. So essentially we can add in as many variations of the logo as we want. I've got a primary logo here. I'm gonna go ahead and pick this file. All right, there we go. I've uploaded the logo, and now automatically, because I uploaded an SVG, it's also created a black version of the logo. I did not upload this on my own. It was able to modify the SVG to actually create this for me. And it even did a white logo as well. So really cool. If you don't have those variations on hand, it's really nice that Baseline does that for you automatically. Now, if you had more variants, like maybe you use just the icon sometimes, that's called a logo mark. I'm gonna go ahead and upload my logo mark. And there you go. This is my logo mark. Now, just like before, it went ahead and tried to create a black version as well as a white version. But as you can plainly see, it didn't work for this SVG file for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. It must have been created a little bit differently. I probably created it by cropping it out of the main logo. So I'm sure it was something to do with user error, but that's okay. I don't really need to have variations for the logo mark. So I'm just going to remove them right here. I can go ahead and just hit remove logo, and then I have the option to trash this field entirely. If later on I want to add this in, no big deal. I can come back to this edit screen and add in a black and white logo mark. By the way, all of these names are completely customizable. If I just wanted to call this like icon or something like that, I definitely could do that. And that goes for all of the other logo options. You can rename them to be appropriate for whatever setup you have. Okay, my logos are ready here, and then we're gonna go through all of the same steps, but notice this time it actually looked at my logo and then grabbed my color palette from this. Now there's one step further I wish it would do, which is to go out to your website and actually look at the colors used on your website. I've seen other tools that do that. Unfortunately, Baseline does not, but at least they're looking at the logo itself to determine the color palette. Now, my logo happens to have a lot of subtle variations of green, so I could go ahead and maybe refine this so I don't have quite so many options when designing. All right, so I'm just adding in a few other options here. I've got a call to action color right here, and then I'm gonna add in another color, which is going to be just kind of a dark background. So to edit this color, I'll just choose the little palette over here, and then I can type in the hex value if I know it. In this case, I'm gonna go for about this color right here. Not quite entirely black, but there you go. There is my color palette. Not super sophisticated, but it's gonna work for now. Then the same option we saw before, I'm gonna skip the gradients this time, and we can go ahead and just check out how to upload a custom font. So in this case, just choose custom font, and then you upload the file. It accepts OTF, TTF, WOFF, and WOFF2. All right, I've got some font files over here. This is a font that I actually purchased. So under custom font, I'm just gonna upload the font right here. I'll choose that font file. I'll go with the WOFF2 as my choice. Those tend to be a little bit smaller than just regular WOFF. And then right away, you can see the headline has changed to be that custom font. So as I'm scrolling through, the font you see up here is always going to be representative of the one that you have selected. So for my sub headline, I'm going to upload another custom font. This is actually going to be the same font, but just a little bit lighter variation. We'll do the regular option right here. And then for the body font, I'm gonna go with a Google font, so you can mix and match these. Okay, so that's everything new. I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up, and then we're gonna check out some of the other features. And hang on, because it's not just about brand kits. We can actually create social media content right inside of Baseline. So lots more to do. I'm gonna go ahead and blast through this, and I'll see you in a moment. Okay, so I've got 4 of my brands loaded into Baseline. I'm gonna go ahead and start to fill in some more of the blanks. So as I click on Profitable Tools, the brand we just created, I've got a few other options here. I can add my brand's tone of voice. I can add photography, which might be a little bit confusing at first, and I can add core values. So let's just start with adding a tone of voice. Now, what I really like here is that it's just a few questions. So if you're providing this as a service to a new company, let's say they hire you to manage their online presence, you're building their website, doing their social media, things like that. And they're like, create some social media content for us. And you say, well, how do you want to be represented? They say, I don't know, just make sure we go viral. We want lots of attention on us. Well, you can walk them through these types of questions in order to really figure out what their values are. How do they want to be represented online? And if you're doing this for yourself, it's a good way to figure out what your values are for yourself, because sometimes it's hard to really pinpoint that. Now, don't get the wrong impression. This is not going to be a big, long, complicated process, but it'll give you just enough information that you have to sit and think about what your values are and how you actually want to be represented. So, like, am I funny or am I serious or somewhere in between? I think most brands would be served best to be somewhere in between, if not serious. And then formality. Do I want to be very, very formal or extremely casual? Well, for me, I'm going to go with neutral. I try not to be too pedantic, but I sometimes get that way. It's just my personality. All right, under regard, do I want to be respectful, neutral, or irreverent? Now, irreverent's going to be we don't care for respect, or respectful means that every word shows honor. Again, living in the middle is kind of my personality, but you do you. Next option is excitement. Do you want to be overly excited, over the top? We've all seen content like that. Or do you want to be a little bit more neutral? And kind of where I tend to land is factual. I want to be honest and simple. Humor tone. So if we're going to be humorous, how should we be humorous? Should we be clever or witty, lively, deadpan? Let's go with deadpan. I like deadpan. All right, next up is formality tones. Now, remember, this is related to the fact that I said I wanted to be neutral in terms of formality. But when we are being formal, should we be trustworthy, frank, authentic, or colloquial? I think I'm going to be frank. All right, so just a few more questions here. Go ahead and answer them to the best of your ability, and then you'll have a tone of voice created for your brand. I mean, I think a good way to do this is just to look at the words and see which ones are most important to you and how you want people to see your company. Honest, definitely want to be seen as honest. That's very important to me. Excitement tones. I think I'm a pretty pragmatic type of person. I hope my content reflects that. And there we go. We've got our tone of voice created. We're going to be deadpan a little bit, but we're going to be frank, honest, and pragmatic. I love it. Let's save this and set it as our tone of voice. Now back to our brand guide. As I scroll down, it's actually going to include a brand new section on that tone of voice. Right below the typography, we've got our tone of voice. So this way, even if you're prompting AI to write copy for you, you could just copy and paste this in and say, here's my brand's tone of voice. I need to create some copy about my brand new product or service, and that'll get it at least in the ballpark of where you want it to go. All right, a couple other options to complete our brand voice, and then there are still a few more things after that to look at. So definitely stay tuned until the end here. Under photography, this one might be a little bit confusing, but think about your website. Think about any print materials you might put out. Is there a certain type of photography that represents your brand? Well, you want to add that here so any future designers that are looking to create content to represent you, well, they'll know what types of photos are going to appeal. Maybe it's going to be a certain type of consumer that you want to represent. Maybe it's going to be a certain type of aesthetic or beauty filter that you like on all of your photos. You add them in here and it can communicate a lot about your brand beyond just the typography and the logo. So, the way this photography section works is you create a gallery, and then inside of that gallery, you can add in images. So, this is all editable here. You can call it whatever you like, product photography, customer profile, things like that. Go ahead and add everything in here. To add an image, go ahead and just upload your assets. Or if you use their editor, which we'll see later on, you can actually just pull in things right from their editor as well. So maybe we'll pause this for a second and then I'll show you the editor. We can jump back here and you can see how they're connected. In fact, before we do that, you'll notice it says assets. There are no assets here. So let's connect all of these dots and the photography section will make a ton of sense in a moment. So back in the main brand section here, you'll notice there is an assets section. This is really helpful for multiple reasons. The first reason that comes to mind for me is if you're running an ambassador program, an affiliate program, and you want to upload assets for your ambassadors to use, you can go in here, add in maybe some sales, some banner ads, whatever they might need to grab. But this also can be a place where you upload your photography, things that you want to show up in those galleries. So there's a folder system here. We could create a new folder and call it anything we want. I'll just do like profile pic. And then inside of the profile pics folder, I'm gonna go ahead and upload, you guessed it, my profile picture. So I'll just choose upload right here. And there we go. I am currently uploading my profile picture. This is going to be done in a second. And then anybody who needs my headshot can grab it right from this folder. So now that I've uploaded an asset, bank that for a moment. I'm going to quickly show you the social media editor. The social media editor basically allows you to create templates so that all of the content that you post on social media has some consistency to it. That is basically what a brand is all about. So you don't want to be just copying everybody else. You want to have your content stand out and be very clearly identified as from your company. So let's say we're going to do, I don't know, how about a LinkedIn feed post? I'll click on this and I got a lot of templates here to choose from, kind of similar to something like Canva, right? It's not quite as good as Canva, if I'm being totally frank, but it's not half bad either. So let's say I wanted to choose this as kind of my main template. I'm going to post a lot of posts using this as a starting point. Well, I can go ahead and edit this to be exactly as I want. So maybe I'll get rid of this guy right here. Or you know what I can even do is remove the background. So I can go to photo adjustments, remove the background, and it starts processing here. And now he's all in green. So that looks really good. Now, obviously, I'd probably want to replace that with myself, but you get the idea here. Now, just like Canva, there is an elements section as well as a photos section over here. So elements are going to be things like shapes and icons. You can go ahead and add in different elements. Notice they're all grabbing my brand colors because that's automatically pulled in from my branding. Everything is going to be on brand by default. The typography is everything I set up before. So really nice, no settings to go ahead and manipulate. But there's also this photo section over here. So if I go ahead and choose one of these photos, rather than searching for Iceland, let's go ahead and just search for woman. We're gonna replace this man with a woman. So I'll first delete him, he's gone. And let's pull in her right here. So I'll resize her, remove the background and see what it looks like on this image. So again, under photo adjustments, remove background. By the way, as this is working, you can see there are a ton of other ways to edit this. I could add blur to it. I can make a grayscale, black and white, sepia tone, anything you want to do. There's also photo filters. So if you want to make adjustments or filters, those are baked right in. But the background removal works really well. As you can see, maybe just a little bit missing on her head there, but even from the original photo, that looks pretty tough. So let's go ahead and just scale this up. And there we go, looking pretty good. Now, one thing I want to do is maybe move her behind this white line. Here's one of the first things I really miss about Canva is there is not a layers section, or you can go into position and layers inside of Canva. For here, we just get this little icon and we can just, send it backwards. It's not terrible, but it's not quite as good. You can see I'm starting to get there. It's not quite as good as just being able to drag it exactly where you want. All right, you know what? I'm not really digging how she's overlapping there, and this is just a line. So rather than getting very detailed in this edit, I'm gonna go ahead and just move her over. I think it's looking pretty good. We'll just resize it a little bit more. All right, there we go. I think that looks pretty nice. Now, just a few other things about the editor that I don't absolutely love, or just really mainly features that I miss from full on Canva, other than that layers section, would primarily be the ability to set a background color. You notice there's document colors up here, or a background image. Like, let's say I wanted this to be the entire width of the image. Sure, I could do that. Well, actually, let's grab another one here. This one is kind of the probably going to fill the screen well enough. So it drops it in, but notice that it's not really a background image here. It actually went kind of on top of everything, because if I move this over, the logo and everything, that's been obscured. So on Canva, you can just say, make this the background image, and it kind of becomes its own thing, but not so in the baseline editor. You can, of course, move it to the back. You just say send it back, but now I've got this green color in front of it. So I'll have to delete the green, and there we go. Not a huge deal, but it's just a different way to think about the design. And I'd love to have at least a visual representation of that. It would help me out a lot. All right, now my design is looking pretty good, at least good enough for right now. And if I'm ready to download it, I'll just click right up here where it says download. Before you click this button, you'll want to decide what file type you want, PNG, JPEG, or WebP. And if you've got any white in the background and you want to have a transparent background, just make sure to toggle this switch beforehand. That'll only be available for PNG and WebP formats, by the way. All right, so if you're ready to go here, just download and you'll be able to upload it to the social media platform of your choosing. In the future, they will be releasing a full-on social media scheduler, so you'll be able to post right from baseline. That's actually in private beta right now, and it will be available to AppSumo customers. All right, so I've added a bunch of assets to this design. Now, I didn't end up using most of them, but I can actually find all of the assets I've used previously inside of the assets folder. Here are a bunch of the different images that I actually pulled in. You can see the modifications that I made, like I made this guy have his background removed. I made this woman have her background removed. If I decide I don't want any of these, like I deleted this one right away, of course, it's very easy to clean up, and I can even organize it. I could just do like a new folder with people or something like that, and just start moving these images into that folder. But where this really helps is you can actually add these to your galleries. So back on the home screen, if I click on my brand and choose the gear icon, I can go to galleries, and here is my photography gallery. I can start to add in those images like, all right, this is the type of photography we want when we're representing our customers or things like that. There are some different layouts here for the galleries, so you can go ahead and customize that to have whatever look you'd like. You can add a collage if you like, change the gap, make sure that everything fits appropriately. And one last cool feature, there's even an autofill button down here where you can just choose a folder, add all of the photos that you want, and it will automatically complete the gallery. One more section here to complete our brand, that's to add in your core values, very similar to what we saw when we are doing our brand voice. Essentially here, we're now, rather than saying how we like to represent ourselves, we're saying, what do we believe in? What do we stand for? Very similar, where you just go through and choose a few different options. This happens to be a multiple choice one, so we can choose the ones that are most important to us, go through. I'm not reading these right now. I'm just kind of clicking, and eventually I'm going to have my brand values created. Again, really good if you're handing it off to a copywriter or an AI that's going to be representing your brand. And now that we're all done, we can go ahead and check out that brand guidelines page one more time. I can scroll through this. You're going to see all of the elements that we've seen throughout this video, including all of the copy that we just added in. Here's our tone of voice. Here are our core values, and even our photography section shows up as well. Notice these are downloadable, so if people need to grab these photos, it'd be very easy to do so. Now, how do you get your brand kit out to people? There's a few different options. You can click on the share icon down here, and you can either just share the URL, or you can embed it right on your website. Of course, if you want to have a print version, you can export this to a PDF as well. You can even password protect it and remove their branding altogether if you prefer. A lot of brands that you know and use probably have a brand page on their website, and you should probably consider having one too. So as I scroll down through one of my favorite plugins for WordPress here, this is WP Fusion. Down at the bottom here, they've got a brand assets page, which looks very similar to what we've seen inside of Baseline. They've got their colors, they've got their logos, their icons, their typography, and then banners. These could be the photography section that we saw, right? So very, very simple. Now, sure, you could build this inside of your favorite website builder, but have everything centralized in a place where it's very easy to give people access. And hey, maybe you don't want to publish this on the web for everybody. You want to invite specific people. Well, that's really where Baseline comes in. Now, as I mentioned at the top of the video, Baseline is currently available for a one-time fee as low as just 79 bucks. That means you pay once and you get access to it forever. If you are managing multiple brands or you're a service provider, you'll definitely want to check out some of their higher end plans. If you purchased Baseline in the past, notice they do have a brand new unlimited plan here that lets you have up to 25 collaborators per brand with literally unlimited brands. But if you just want to use the same type of plan that I've been using throughout this video, 79 bucks is going to get you access to all of the features. Now, one more thing to note on the AppSumo plans, that tier 3 and tier 4 both get something called organizations. I've not covered organizations in this video, but essentially it's kind of like sub-accounts where you can add in your clients. I definitely recommend that if you're going to be using this as a service provider to kind of keep things nice and organized. So that's Baseline. I really like this tool. I think it has a lot of utility. It's kind of one of my favorite types of LTDs, a very simple, useful thing that people can get value from right away. It's not an entire platform that you're going to run your entire business on, I guess, unless you're doing brand identities for people. But otherwise, just the average person can get a lot of use out of this. You'll see a lot of value out of 79 bucks or even $359. It's pretty easy to make that money back. So I'm going to go ahead and give Baseline a 7.6. I'd like to see some small upgrades in things like the editor. I wish the editor was a little bit more powerful, but really that's kind of an add-on feature from the main thing that it's doing, which is creating brand kits. But since they're getting into social media publishing, I gotta factor that into my scoring. Overall, really like this tool. Definitely recommend checking it out if you're in the market for such a thing. My name is Dave. Thank you for watching. If you want to grab Baseline, again, I've got my AppSumo link down below. If you are new to this channel, consider getting subscribed. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next review.